Hey everybody, it's Randy Ray, the Literate Texan, and I have a book review tonight for Jim Thompson's novel, The Getaway, which was published in 1958. It was made into a 1972 film that starred Steve McQueen and Ally McGraw. Fairly famous. It was directed by Sam Peckinpah, and the screenplay for that was written by Walter Hill. I don't normally do individual book reviews here, but this book, I feel like I need to, because there are some things in this book that I feel the need to talk about. So this will be a spoiler-filled review of The Getaway by Jim Thompson. So if you don't want the plot spoiled, you know what? Just find one of my other videos to watch, okay? So if you're not familiar with the storyline already, and a lot of my viewers probably saw the 1972 film, but The Getaway is about a character named Doc McCoy, who's a real cool customer. He's really smooth. Everybody likes him. He's always really calm. And he's in prison for something. I don't know. But he's married. And he's married to the Ally McGraw character in the movie. His wife's name is Carol. But the book starts off with him trying to get out of prison, of course. And so he sends Carol, his wife, to talk to a particularly powerful political figure who has something to do with the parole board and works out a way to get him a pardon. Of course, you know, it's implied pretty strongly. It's basically very clear that she sleeps with the guy, which Doc eventually figures out, isn't too happy about, but realizes it's okay, you know, because after all, it did get him out of prison, right? So one of the terms of his agreement to get out of prison, besides giving the money to the parole board guy, Banyan is the guy's name, is that he do a bank robbery. And so he and two other guys do this bank robbery, and Doc McCoy's a meticulous planner. He's really good at planning crimes and carrying them through and that sort of thing. And the bank robbery doesn't take particularly long, but they do kill a bank guard, and one of his two Confederates, Rudy, kills the third bank robber and just dumps him out of the car. So when they meet up afterwards, Doc McCoy's ready for Rudy to turn on him, and Rudy's ready for Doc to turn on him. They have a little shootout, and Doc leaves Rudy for dead, but Rudy's not really dead. So Rudy, when he wakes up, he is unconscious, you know, finds his way to a veterinarian's office and convinces the vet to, you know, patch him up, and then decides that he's going to take the vet and the vet's wife cross country with him so that he can get the money from Doc and Carol and kill them and get his revenge and stuff. So anyway, that's not even the part of the book that I really want to talk about. Basically, it's kind of like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, except really gritty and crime-filled, okay? You know, it's basically Doc and Carol trying to get out of the country. They want to go to Mexico to this sanctuary or haven for criminals that's run by a man named El Rey, okay? And that's the part of the book that I want to talk about is El Rey, okay? So, if you've seen a movie called From Dusk Till Dawn, which I have, and I've seen it, I don't even know how many times. I love From Dusk Till Dawn. It's a movie that was directed by Robert Rodriguez and was written by Quentin Tarantino. It's about a couple of bank robbers who are on the run from the law. They're trying to go to Mexico to get to a sanctuary for criminals called El Rey. So instead of going to see a man named El Rey who runs this nameless city, they're going to a city called El Rey, or at least that's the implication. And you've got to pay money to get into the city. It's the same destination. I've read interviews with Tarantino where he talks about the whole idea of Del Rey came straight from the book The Getaway. So the last chapter of The Getaway is about what life is like after they've gotten away. What life is like in El Rey, for lack of a, you know, there's no name given to the place, so we might as well call it El Rey, even though that's the name of the guy that's running El Rey. Okay, so, and this is where it gets weird, because the first dozen or 13 chapters of The Getaway, really gritty, realistic, hardcore, dramatic crime stuff about these really amoral characters. There's not a character in this book that you could point to and say, oh, this character is a moral character. None of them are really particularly sympathetic even. Doc is ostensibly the hero, especially if you've seen the movie and you associate him with Steve McQueen. But even then, the Doc McCoy that's in the book is not the same Doc McCoy that Steve McQueen plays in the movie. They're just very different characters. So they get to El Rey, and what they learn in El Rey is not only do you have to pay money to get in, but you have to use his bank, okay? And his bank does not pay out interest, just doesn't. But if you don't use his bank and you don't deposit your money in El Rey's bank, it will probably get stolen. And everybody kind of knows that if it doesn't get stolen, it does get stolen. It's probably getting stolen by the cops. Also, the number of police per capita in the sanctuary city for fugitives in El Rey is higher than anywhere else in the world. It's an extremely safe place to be, which makes sense. If you want to run a safe sanctuary for fugitives, you'd want to have a lot of law around looking out, because let's face it, they're not sending their best and brightest down there. I can't believe I just quoted Donald Trump on anything. But so the other thing about El Rey, okay, first of all, you come in with the money that you got through whatever you did that made you a fugitive, usually robbing a bank or something like that. But everything there is first class or luxury, okay? You can't buy a can of Schaefer beer there or Lone Star beer. You know, you're going to be drinking a premium beer if you're drinking a beer in El Rey. You can't stay in a cheap motel. You know, it's either going to be a first class or a luxury hotel. Your apartment's going to be really nice. That's just how it is. And El Rey basically owns everything. So everything you're buying there, you're buying from him. As a result, you get to El Rey with $250,000 or $500,000 or whatever, and you got to live off that money while it lasts. But it doesn't generally last long, because you're living, you know, the luxury life in what seems like a luxury resort town for criminals, okay? And that's fine until you go broke. When you run out of money, they don't really have a lot of jobs there for you to do. You can't really go back and get some kind of minimum wage bartending job in El Rey and, you know, go live on the cheap somewhere. It's just not possible. But they have a section of the town, or a separate town, where they send you when you run out of money, okay? And this town has no drink, it has no food, okay? The only thing to eat there are the other people in the town. Basically, once you go broke in El Rey, you're forced into a life of cannibalism, which is a really weird, surreal, strange place to take this story, which up until this point has seemed very realistic, like ripped from the front page kind of stuff. But now you're definitely veering into the world of the surreal and the fantastic, because that's kind of crazy stuff right there, you know? So I just wanted to talk about how El Rey is a great name for a destination, as it is used in From Dusk Till Dawn. And it also really makes The Getaway a unique book in the sense that it's not just a gritty crime novel about an amoral couple of bank robbers trying to reach a sanctuary city, but that last chapter about the sanctuary city, you know, El Rey means, I guess, in Spanish it means the king, and I guess the area is his kingdom, but it's really bizarre. It's almost a work of weird fiction. So that elevates it from what would have been kind of an average novel to what I would say was a really good or excellent novel. Also, I want to point out the edition of The Getaway that I read is only 207 pages, which, as far as I'm concerned, qualifies it as my first Shorty for the month of September. It is Shorty September, and I will leave details about Shorty September in the notes down below. And that's about all I have to say about The Getaway. But I mean, if you like crime novels, you know, and if you like that kind of Quentin Tarantino type movie, or if you've seen the movie The Getaway, you know, and liked it, I would recommend that you check out the Jim Thompson novel too. The only other Jim Thompson novel that I've ever read was The Killer Inside Me, which I did not like nearly as much as I liked The Getaway. But that is my spoiler-filled review of The Getaway, and I will be back with more videos very soon. Until then, stay hydrated. Even though the weather's gotten a little bit cooler, it doesn't mean that hydration isn't important. So drink some water, folks.